An ugly win in LA for the Timberwolves behind some late Ant heroics. All about the offensive struggles and how Ant pulled it out for the Wolves next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to us by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy weekend. It is a victory Friday as the Timberwolves held on to beat the Clippers in an ugly game on Thursday night. I am Ben Beecken, host of the Daily Locked On Wolves podcast. Welcome in as we break down this, yes, ugly victory for the Timberwolves. But look, there's no moral victories here for a team that has its eyes on a championship, but is really struggling here lately. But you'd rather win than lose, right? Right? I mean, I feel like that's where we can start here. Losing this game would have been horrific, and they didn't lose it. That's where we have to start. Now, what happened offensively for this team to score just 94 points? We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about what I think, at least for the first part of the game, was a really good defensive performance. I know it's a severely shorthanded Clippers team, but I thought the Wolves defense was on point. We'll talk about Gobert's performance on that end of the floor, especially. And we'll talk a little bit of rotation stuff as well. So a lot to get to here today on the show. Also, big news. Kyle Anderson's slow-mo was reported first by Shams Charania, confirmed by John Krasinski of The Athletic on, I guess it was Thursday afternoon, late afternoon, that the Timberwolves would be bringing back Kyle Anderson. I'm going to do a bonus show that'll post on Friday, a short bonus show about his fit and the move for the Timberwolves, pending, the buyout and the agreement and the whole thing actually happening here over the weekend at some point. So we'll break that down on tomorrow's show. So we'll get to that as well. Big thank you here off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. All right, real quick. I think I said tomorrow's show. Today, I'm doing another show today on Friday. It'll be a short, 15-minute show about slow-mo and the fit. So we'll do that here later on in the day. But today, this is the post-game pod on this episode, and we're going to talk all things Wolves-Clippers. And, this thing was super ugly. The Clippers didn't have Kawhi Leonard. Darius Garland, still it looks like he's close to suiting up for the Clippers, but he was not on the floor. John Collins was out. Obviously, James Harden traded a few weeks ago. This is an offensively starved Clippers team. No doubt about it. I mean, Derrick Jones Jr. led the way with 18 points. Nobody else had more than 14. And outside of Benedict Mathurin, I don't know that you'd have anybody on this roster that you would expect to supply any semblance of offense. And sure enough, they didn't score. The Clippers did not make a three-pointer until the final minute of the second quarter. And they only made 5 for the game. The only way the Clippers really stayed in this game at all offensively was because of the free throws, which, we come back to the Wolves once again fouling too much. Physical game. The Timberwolves, Jaden McDaniels almost lost his mind again. And the Clippers shot 10 more free throws, made 9 more free throws than Minnesota. So that's really what kept this thing close. The first quarter was kind of an offensive explosion compared to the rest of the game. 29-27, the Wolves led after the first quarter. The second quarter, the total number of points scored between both teams was 26. First quarter was Minnesota 29, LA 27. Second quarter was a combined score of 26 points. The Wolves, between the second and third quarter, scored just 34 points. Not in one quarter or the other, but the second and third combined. The offense was miserable for the Timberwolves. Julius Randle had 4 points on 1 of 10 shooting. Rudy Gobert had 3 points, only had 1 field goal attempt in this game. He attempted 4 free throws, and they were all in the first half of the first quarter. The Timberwolves had 3 bench players not score. Now, Mike Conley and Terrence Shannon barely played, but 3 bench players, I didn't mean to say not score. 3 bench players that scored 3 or less points. Minnesota had 5 of their 9 players score 4 or less points in this game. Ant had 31. Dante DiVincenzo had 18. Nobody else had more than 12. I talked about the Clippers' three-point shooting already. 5 made threes, 23% outside the arc. Minnesota had 8 made threes and shot 31% outside the arc. Now, I do want to start with the Timberwolves defense in the first half, because that I think was impressive. Like I thought Minnesota, like as the game wore on, the third quarter was not good defensively, and I do think the Clippers just there's just a dearth of offensive. I didn't want to use the word firepower. There is no offense to this Clippers team that scored 88 points on 41% shooting and made 5 threes. But in the first half, any semblance of offense the Clippers were potentially able to muster was snuffed out largely by Rudy Gobert. The Timberwolves were in a deep drop coverage, understandably so. And it was just like a steady diet of Benedict Mathurin 10, 12, 14 footers that just clanked off the rim. And Gobert was awesome. He was playing the drop perfectly, still getting contests on Mathurin and others. Chris Dunn was still making. Chris Dunn he had probably 5 never minds in this game where it looked like he was going to get to the basket, and then he just was like, nope, Rudy's there, dribbled back out. Gobert was great in the first half of this game defensively, and I thought the Wolves were they did their part. It wasn't simply no Clippers scoring ability. It was that combined with a stifling Minnesota defense. Unfortunately, in the third quarter, the defense was less stifling. The Clippers made a couple more shots. There were also a lot of transition opportunities. The Timberwolves only turned it over like twice in the first quarter and a half of this game. They turned it over a bunch early in the third quarter, and that's really what led to those 30 Clippers points in the third quarter alone. It was really driven by Minnesota turnovers. Total for the game, the Clippers scored 15 points on 13 Minnesota turnovers, and it felt like at least 10 of those were like in rapid fire there in the third quarter. There were also other buckets scored, like not necessarily in transition off of turnovers, but following Timberwolves turnovers as the game wore on. And again, the third quarter was the worst part. The fourth quarter, it was still close. Like the Timberwolves were losing in the fourth quarter by multiple possessions until a strong finish. And we're going to get into what Ant did down the stretch. Some of the, we'll call them antics, the Ant antics down the stretch after he made the three and yelled in Chris Finch's face. Like that was, Minnesota needed that. And I talked a lot actually on yesterday's show about the lack of playmaking, the lack of ball movement in the Timberwolves offense, how the team's assist rate. There's only, what's the stat? There's one guy in the team with an assist rate over 20% this season. And last year there were 4 players in the rotation with individual assist rates over 20%, which is just one example of the lack of assists, the lack of ball movement, the lack of playmaking from this team. And frankly, the lack of just simply sharing the ball. And this was another game where that was the case. I mean, Minnesota ended up with just 23 assists on 36 made field goals, which is a low number. It's not like a painfully low number. They did have, Ant had 5, DiVincenzo had 4, Bones had 4 assists in 15 minutes, Julius Randle had 6, but it was, the Wolves also only scored 94 points, right? And a big piece of that was the lack of overall ball movement. Anthony Edwards was part of that. To be sure, I still think that's an issue. But when the game's close late and you need a bucket and you're not getting any offense anyway, what are you going to do? You're going to rely on your superstar to do that. And well, this is a positive moment amongst a really kind of a season-long issue. Like, we'll take the win and move on, right? That's kind of the attitude here. It's still something that needs to be watched. This lack of ball movement within the offense, and frankly, like Kyle Anderson, who we'll talk about on the bonus show later today, is going to add another element of that, a Julius Randle-esque ability to be a point forward and initiate some offense and inject a little bit of life, as weird as that sounds from a guy whose nickname is Slow-Mo, but I truly think there's something there. And to kind of hopefully reignite the playmaking bone in Anthony Edwards' body. So let's talk a little bit about how Ant closed the game. We'll talk about the rotation and a couple things Chris Finch tried to do in this game to spark his team a bit. So we'll get into that here in a moment. We'll close by talking individual studs and duds as well. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at DoorDash. The season is heating up now that we're after the All-Star break especially, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just watching your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There's nights where your team might stress you out, like last night. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need dessert right now. The late night interviews hit. You always know the Ant interview post game is going to be amazing. Suddenly you need chips at midnight. I get that. DoorDash is built exactly for that. If the group chat says pull up, DoorDash makes sure you show up prepared. Snacks, cups, even a phone charger for the friend who's always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. Reminder, you can get Locked On Wolves ad-free with the Everydayer Club. Plus, you'll get access to the members-only Discord chat. I'm in there pretty much daily. We talked, a lot of stuff over the last couple of weeks, from trade deadline to All-Star break. And now, of course, kind of commiserating about the offensive struggles. Join the Everydayer Club. You get the ad-free episodes of this show. You can jump into the Discord as well. You can join at lockedonwolves.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes to learn more. Again, lockedonwolves.supercast.com. I forgot to mention this off the top today, but the Brent Barry on the National Prime broadcast mentioned Locked On Wolves, and a segment actually was on, I think, Tuesday's show. I talked a little bit about the Timberwolves rotations, and actually a lot about the Timberwolves rotations needing more Naz Reid, probably a little less Bones Highland overall, even though he played well in the Clippers game last night, and how the Wolves starting lineup has played like hundreds of minutes more than any other five-man unit across the league. Brent Barry on the Prime broadcast shouted that out. Michael Grady, of course, Timberwolves primary play-by-play announcer on TV, doing a great job on Prime, as he does on all the national broadcasts, reiterated the comment from Barry by talking about DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, two of just 7 players in the league who have played in every single game, not just played in every game, but have actually started every game. 2 of the 7 in the league, obviously both in the Timberwolves starting lineup. So, awesome. Brent Barry gave the show a shout out. Appreciate Brent listening to Locked On Wolves for prep. A lot of broadcasts do listen to Locked On shows as they prep their local and national broadcasts. So cool moment there. I posted it on X if you missed it. It was, I think, late in the third quarter. So anyway, check that out. Let's get into the close of this game. So down the stretch, Minnesota is down in the fourth quarter. Heading to the fourth quarter, they're losing. And down the stretch in the fourth, it had to be Anthony Edwards that was going to pull this team out of it. There were some good moments. Jaden McDaniels had a really big moment down the stretch. He was pivotal in this game. We'll talk about his individual performance here in a little bit. But with 4 minutes to play, Derrick Jones Jr. hits or splits a pair of free throws. The Timberwolves are up by 3. Naz turns it over. A little bit of a back and forth there. A miss by Jaden. Derrick Jones makes another bucket. Now Minnesota's up just 1 with just over 2 minutes to play. Ant gets fouled, hits a pair of free throws, gets it back up to 3. So a big Ant possession. It's back down to 1 after Mathurin makes a shot. Ant hits another shot. Chris Dunn hits a shot. It's a 1-point game again. And then Ant hits his crazy 3-pointer in the corner to put the Wolves up 4 with 43 seconds left. He had Chris Dunn, and I forget who the other guy was, draped all over him in the corner in front of the Wolves bench, and knocks it down to push the lead from 1 to 4 with 43 seconds left. Just a crazy shot. And of course, right after he hits the shot, he yells in Chris Finch's face, "That's what I do." Some more colorful language in there as well. And, obviously it's in the moment. And Ant said after the game, it's because Chris Finch had told him, I think, the possession before, he should have passed it out when he shot the mid-ranger. And Ant was like, I just had to let him know that's what I do. Like, that's obviously an in-the-moment thing. Obviously, they have that relationship. They have that respect. It's, I don't think anybody's too concerned about that happening. It's just Ant's passion and an incredible shot. The thing is everybody's right in this scenario. Ant does need to pass the ball more often. Lately, he's been so stuck in his hero mindset, which will work against a shorthanded Clippers team, and it'll work against some of these other opponents the Wolves have beaten, but it's not always going to work in the playoffs. That said, if things break down, you need a guy like Ant who truly not just believes, but knows he can get it done. And so you want that edge. You want that confidence. You want that ability, because obviously he did it. And that's not even like, there were some other shots he hit, the fadeaway bank shot on the left or the right side of the floor in the first half. The lefty layup on the right hand of the hoop to sneak it underneath Brook Lopez's arm when he was trying to block what he assumed would be a right-handed layup from Ant. I think that was third quarter. They're just like the mix of shots that Ant made in this game, it was phenomenal. And here's the thing. I'm sitting here saying, like, Ant should pass it more because the Timberwolves only had 94 points and the ball movement wasn't there. Well, guess what? Dude shot 50% from the field. Ant had 31 on 24 shots. Only got to the line 6 times. Probably should have shot at least 2 to 3 more free throws. There were a couple what should have been and ones mixed in there. And he had 5 assists and 3 turnovers. Now, it's the first time he's had more assists than turnovers in like 2 weeks, or maybe second time in the last 2 weeks. But he's been on this stretch of more turnovers than assists, which is unusual. Like, you take the last dozen or so games, and this is one of Ant's better, more well-rounded, all-around games. But I don't think Chris Finch is wrong. On some of those possessions, the ball needed to move a little bit more. And it doesn't mean Ant needs to shoot less. It just means he needs to get off the ball earlier in the possession. We've talked so much about this. I feel like we talked more about it last year, and Chris Finch talked more about it last year because the playmaking developed, especially late in the year and into the playoffs last season with Anthony Edwards, where he started to understand, hey, if I'm going to get trapped, I got to get off the ball early, and it's going to come back to me. Catch and shoot 3-point opportunity. The defense is going to be in rotation. I can pump, fake, and drive, get them on their heels. Whatever it is, there's a lot of opportunity if you get off the ball early in the possession. And it's complicated now because, I mean, last year you still had a functional Mike Conley. You still had Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And now you have basically no Mike Conley, a very diminished Mike Conley who played 3 minutes in this game. You don't have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You have another shoot-first guy in Bones Highland who, again, played pretty well in this game. DiVincenzo doesn't really want to drive. The defense knows that. So you're just a little bit more limited. And it goes back a little bit to what I talked about on yesterday's show, which is how reliant this team is on making threes in the half court. If they're not hitting those catch and shoot threes, it's not full thunder, right? It's not OKC's offense, which is SGA's incredible and one of the best offensive players, I don't know, of the generation, I think we can say at this point. Like, at least the last 2 seasons have been that. If he keeps it up, we can say that for sure. But so much of their offense is reliant on, hey, if they're going to double Shea, somebody has to make a 3. And then also some offensive rebounding from Hartenstein, a little bit from Chet Holmgren. But it's predicated on some of that open floor scoring and knocking down catch and shoot threes. And a lot of what Minnesota is doing and what's working this year offensively is just that. But when you have games where the 3 ball is not falling and or you're turning the ball over in the open floor in the half court, or Ant's not passing the ball when he needs to, the offense is really going to break down. And then on top of that, Julius Randle shoots 1 of 10 and doesn't make a 3 and is shooting like 31% on threes this season. That's pretty limiting. And going back to Tuesday's show, it means more Naz Reid. You need more Naz Reid. And previewing the show, what we're going to talk about later today in the slow-mo bonus episode, Kyle Anderson, even though he himself is not going to score a ton of points, will be some of the, the grease on the proverbial wheels that is the Timberwolves offense that just too often are getting stuck. And more Naz, probably less Bones overall. I think less Julius Randle at times, depending on the matchup. Perhaps some slow-mo. Perhaps it's continuing to integrate TJ Shannon. I know he only played 4 minutes in this game. I thought he was pretty good, actually, in this one. I think it was all first half minutes. So there's a lot of things that are kind of interconnected here. And the Timberwolves offense just continues to keep getting stuck. I want to close by talking individual studs and duds. I'll hit the rotation thing here in just a second because I didn't fully get into that. So we'll do that. We'll close the show with studs and duds, and we'll get you ready for the weekend. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors at 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There is something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number 1 pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft, and I'm going to go with tried and true berry. Big, bold berry flavor, slightly sweet, but a very fruity flavor. Classic mixed berry with notes of raspberry and blackberry. I love blackberry flavor. Smooth sweetness without being overly sugary, and yes, a light tartness that keeps it balanced. If I had a second pick, I would go strawberry watermelon, also sweet and tart, tastes like candy, and I love watermelon flavored candy, so you got to go strawberry watermelon for pick number 2. And then my sleeper is peach mango. I think it's easy to forget just how delicious peach mango is. It's not a traditional flavor of candy or anything like this, but it's got ripe peach flavor on your very first sip of the 5 Hour Energy. The mango adds some tropical depth to it, some sweetness. It's got a smooth, rounded fruit profile, slightly richer mouthfeel than some of the citrus flavors. So peach mango is my sleeper. My number 1 pick is berry. My number 2 pick is strawberry watermelon. 5-Hour Energy Shots give you a boost with 0 sugar. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy Shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Again, 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is also brought to us by our friends at Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple, and that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, and that's what the fans. All you got to do is pull up the Game Time app, you pick an upcoming NBA game. The Wolves are on the road Sunday, but then they're back home next week, finally, back at Target Center. You get your tickets locked in within minutes. You'll see your price, the all-in price up front. You don't have to worry about the surprise fees at the checkout, which I think is probably the best thing about Game Time. Also great, you can see the view from your seat before buying, and it helps make your decision much easier, and zone deals will stand out as well. Choose the section, Game Time will pick your seats, and you will save. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. All right, let's close the post-game pod by talking a bit about the rotations and then studs and duds. Notably, there were 8 guys that played at least, we'll just say more than 4 rotation minutes. So really 8 guys in the primary rotation. Bones Highland played 15 minutes. Naz and Dosunmu were both, Naz was 29 minutes, Dosunmu was 23. So they had 8 guys play 15 or more minutes, 7 guys play 23 or more minutes, and all the starters played at least 31 minutes. Mike Conley played 3 second-half minutes. TJ Shannon played 4 first-half minutes. Conley was inserted when the offense had no flow in the third quarter. Turnovers were a massive issue. I think it was 3 or 4 straight possessions. The Wolves turned it over. Of course, predictably, Mike Conley didn't do anything to help that. TJ Shannon, I thought, was fine in the first half when he got his stint. He got called for a foul that I think was a bad call. He did turn the ball over once, but I thought he provided that pop, that energy that he needs to. I think it'll be interesting to continue to watch Dosunmu and how he's used. We talked a little bit about this the other day, his plus minus, the on-off, really any of the metrics you want to look at over his first half dozen games in a Timberwolves uniform. None of it looks good, but I think a lot of it is there's a lot of noise there, right? The sample size is so small. A lot of times he's supposed to be the best perimeter defender on the floor with Julius Randle and Naz Reid with Rudy off the floor. That's a very tough thing to do. I do like having him on the floor and Rudy's off the floor because of the element that he adds as a cutter, just in terms of floor spacing and floor balance. I think that sometimes it gets a little clogged if you have Ayo cutting and Gobert's in there. So I understand it. But it's going to put him in an impossible place when it comes to some of those metrics because the defense is just inherently bad when Rudy's off the floor. And so Ayo on the floor with Rudy off the floor is going to look bad for Dosunmu. But in this game, Ayo played 23 minutes. I thought it was one of his better games of the, 7-ish that he's played in a Wolves uniform. Had a steal, was a +9, 12 points on 9 shots, knocked down his only 3-point attempt. Bones played 15 minutes and was a +10. So the 2 best plus-minus numbers on the Wolves in this game were Dosunmu and Bones Highland, who were the 2 guys that played the least minutes among the 8 rotation guys, we'll call them, in this game. So I thought that was interesting. We saw Chris Finch go back to the minutes, I guess, pattern that Ant has played for most of the year recently, or for most of the year. Ant was playing the full first quarter, sitting for the first 5 to 6 minutes of the second quarter, coming back in, following a similar pattern in the second half. But the last couple of weeks, I think going back to right before the All-Star break, certainly since the All-Star break, Ant had been sitting 2 or 3 minutes left in the first quarter and then essentially bridging that gap, which is like what Kevin Garnett always used to get that break where it was the last couple of minutes of the first quarter, first couple of the second, and he'd do it again in the second half. Finch has tried that recently with Ant. My hunch is he went away from that in this game because the Wolves were having such a tough time getting on track in the first quarter. But anyway, that'll be something to monitor here moving forward as well. All right, studs and duds. Obviously, Anthony Edwards was the Wolves' best player in this game. He had 31 points on 24 shots, 12 of 24 from the field, 2 of 6 on threes. He was 10 of 18 on twos, and 5 of 6 at the free throw line. I talked about this earlier. He should have more free throw attempts. He had a couple of feathery smooth jumpers in from the mid-range. He hit 2 big threes in this game. One is the offense was trying to get off the ground. Was it third quarter, I think, when they were struggling. He didn't really kickstart them, but it was an important 3 in the moment. And then, of course, the dagger 3 from the left corner with 43 seconds left that extended the Wolves lead from 1 to 4. He had 5 assists, only 3 turnovers. We'll take that. 1 steal, 3 boards in this game for Anthony Edwards. I thought he was very, very good overall. Dante DiVincenzo has to also get a stud. He's the only other dude that scored more than 12 points. 18 points on 6 of 13, 4 of 9 on threes in this game, 4 assists to just 1 turnover, and 2 steals, both of which were just massive hustle plays from DiVincenzo. Just a really nice all-around performance from Dante. My third stud, you could argue Nas, who had 11 and 7. You could argue Dosunmu, who had 12. I'm going to go Jaden McDaniels. Jaden had 12.7 boards, 5 of 10 shooting. Did not make a 3. He was 0 for 1 outside the arc. He did have 3 steals. He had an important offensive rebound. He had the hard foul against Benedict Mathurin, and the one before that against was it Chris Dunn the first time, or were both of them Mathurin? I don't remember. But of course, Chris Dunn and him got into it. Part of the stud classification, I guess, or credentials for this game would be this is weird, but Jaden kind of keeping his cool in that moment. He was awesome in Portland a couple nights ago. And of course, he was, when he's got that chip, he's got that hey, people are trying to mess with me. He plays better as long as he can contain it. And I thought it was it was teetering in this game for sure. And yeah, he only had 12 points, but I thought he was really good. And I thought he was locked in. I think we're in a good Jaden stretch. And if he could keep his composure, he's going to be obviously huge down the stretch in the regular season into the playoffs. But I thought this was a good all-around Jaden McDaniels game. Duds, no real duds. Well, no, that's not true. Julius Randle's a dud. Julius Randle's a dud. He was not good. He had 4 points in the first half, 0 points in the second half, finished 1 of 10 shooting, 3 missed threes. He's just got to stop shooting threes for a while. He can't shoot his way out of this one. 6 assists for for Randle, 3 boards, 2 turnovers in this game. I don't think he played well. The 1 of 10 is a pretty good, I guess, indicator of that, but just, you can't be a ball stopper if you're not going to make shots. Just not a good Randle game. There's obviously been a lot of dubious stuff here recently from him, but I'll talk about the Kyle Anderson stuff on today's bonus show, but some of what Randle can do, Kyle Anderson can do in a, I would say, more palatable way, as weird as that sounds, and I'll explain what I mean here on the bonus show later, but not a good game from Julius Randle. I thought, Conley and Shannon both were not, Shannon I thought was better than Conley. They didn't really play enough to be duds in this game, but, I'll say Randle's the only one. Gobert only had 3 points, but the Wolves' lack of ball movement was also credit the Clippers for kind of packing the paint and trying to make it difficult to get to the rim. And also that prevented, angles for Rudy to get lobs, and he just didn't. He had 1 field goal attempt. He had just 2 offensive rebounds in this game. Minnesota had only 7 offensive rebounds as a team. So I thought the Clippers actually did a pretty good job playing hard, packing the paint, and cutting off some of those lob angles for the Wolves. Okay, that's all on this one. Next up, the Wolves are off Friday and Saturday before they head to Denver to play in the Mile High City on Sunday afternoon, a matinee on ABC on Sunday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. tip. So I'm going to do the bonus episode today talking about Kyle Anderson and the acquisition. So stay tuned for that. It'll be posted midday. And then we'll be back Sunday, I guess, late afternoon, early evening. The postcast with Jack and Luke will go live on YouTube. If you're watching Locked On Wolves on YouTube, that episode will be right here on this feed. If you're listening to the audio episode, the postcast gets posted as well. After the live YouTube is over, the audio gets posted to the audio feed. I'll be back late Sunday, early Monday with the postgame pod following Wolves Nuggets on Sunday as well. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. If you never miss an episode, of course, you could join the Everydayer Club. It's built for you. Get Locked On Wolves ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonwolves.supercast.com to join the club. If you're watching on video, we'll send you after this episode to the very first 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. If you're listening on audio, make sure that you make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA. Of course, Locked On Wolves is part of the very same Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.